Hey guys, it's Jared Dodd. Welcome you back to our YouTube channel here with my lovely wife, Amy, my sons, Jared, Jedediah, my daughter, Ivy, and my son, Isaiah. And we're talking about movies. Sorry, I know it's been a long time since we've uploaded a video, but between my cage fighting career and my wife's professional modeling career, we've been a little bit tied up. But we are back. So we're going to be talking about movies. Hey, how do we choose what we're going to watch? Guess what? There are movies, just like books, just like conversations that will build your family up in the Lord. There's also movies that will conform us to the patterns of this world. Now, a quick testimony. Mrs. Dodd and I, as a pastor and pastor's wife, as Christians, for years, we were movie addicts. We watched movies all the time. We kept Redbox when it first came out in business. They should have given us some of their stocks if there's such a thing. Okay, and finally, we started to get convicted because we were putting our kids, Jared and Isaiah at that time, in bed early, and we would just watch a couple movies at night. And Jared and Isaiah, they were very young, like, well, what movies are you watching? Can I watch them? Like, oh no, there's no way. Because we were watching the movies of the world, and we were compromising our convictions as Christians, and we were really justifying what we watched. Well, we've heard this before, we've seen it before, it's not a big deal, we're adults. And the verse that really hit me, a very well-known verse, Philippians 4:8, it says, whatever is true, whatever is pure, whatever is trustworthy, whatever is honorable, think about such things. And so we came and we prayed and we decided to do a 6-week media fast. Now, it turned into a 1.5-year fast, but it was one of the most difficult things that we ever did.
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was good. It was a good horrible.
It's like an emotional mental detox. All of a sudden, and it really showed us just how plugged in we were to the matrix of Hollywood and just giving our brain the stimulation that movies give it. And for days we were walking around like zombies. My wife couldn't find the purpose in life. It was just really bad, but it set a powerful reset button and it resensitized us to content that isn't worthy of God's kingdom. So it really performed a mighty thing in us. But then we finally decided, you know what, maybe we should bring movies back into our family. What movies do we watch? And this is what we want to talk to you guys about. The bad thing is when I look down at my notes, they see my bald spot. All right, so before we jump into this, my wife's going to share some very powerful insight into a documentary that we watched called Captivated that really was the straw that broke the camel's back. Would highly recommend it.
Yeah, we watched a documentary called Captivated, directed by Colin Gunn. And one of the things in that movie, it just talks about how when you're watching movies, you produce this, chemical reaction or this hormone or something that makes you feel like you've actually accomplished something. So you'll watch this epic movie, and at the end, you've released this chemical in your body that's like, oh my goodness, I actually, won the world for something. And so that was kind of powerful for us because when we went through that 1.5 year or 12 to 18 months, somewhere in there, movie fast, and we weren't watching anything, at first,
we felt like we weren't accomplishing anything. We weren't getting the stimulation.
It was insane.
It was really depressing.
But then, I would say maybe after a couple weeks, we finally kind of got back to normal. But that first couple weeks, it was kind of bizarre. I don't know.
And what's crazy is when we broke our fast with a movie that most people consider a good kind of family neutral film, because we had become resensitized, it was shocking and it really was disturbing.
We didn't even finish it. Like, we found it kind of evil.
Yeah, and it was a movie that many people would totally find acceptable, and we aren't going to tell you what it is just so it drives you crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we think that it's okay to watch movies. Some Christians say, hey, we just aren't going to watch movies, and that's fine if that's your conviction.
You wanted to go there.
Well, that was me for a long time. My wife helped me in the sense that there's nothing inherently evil with sitting in front of a screen. You guys are doing it right now. It's a matter of two things, and this is very important because what we're looking for are principles here. It's a matter of quantity and quality. Guess what? Every movie you watch is either teaching you the culture of God's kingdom or the culture of this world. Every movie has a worldview attached with it. So this is where, think about this. This is, I think, the best example. 25 years ago, most people did not think that homosexuality was an acceptable lifestyle, if you want to use that word. Today, it's almost turned exactly 180. How? How did that happen? I think one of the biggest ways, if not the main way, was Hollywood media. People began to put homosexual characters into movies, and even if they were a side character or just some comic relief, it scratched away, or it notched away at our resolve, and pretty soon people just found it to be acceptable. It became normal. Friends, that's the power of media. That's the power of Hollywood, and they know they have that power. The men and women who write these movies, they know what they're doing. Many of them have agendas, and we're losing our children in the church because of the movies that we're letting them watch. Just getting this one thing right or wrong can make an eternal difference in the lives of our family. So everything you watch is either an advertisement for God's kingdom or the world. Most of the stuff out there is for the world, but there is some really good stuff, and we're going to talk about that. Now, like I said, it's also about quantity. How often do you watch movies? As for us and our family, every Friday, more or less, sometimes we miss a Friday, but most Fridays we have a movie night. We've been working hard all week with work and with education, and it's time to kick back, relax, and we watch a movie. So that's our kind of culture, is once a week we watch a movie, but we want it to be something that when our children are done watching it, they're better for it. And we're going to talk about that. Guess what? Even rated G movies can chip away at the biblical worldview that you're trying to instill within your children. Many of Disney's movies are rated G, and yet in God's kingdom they're rated R. They go completely against many of the important principles that God has for our children. Some examples, and I'm sorry because I'm going to step on toes, I'm going to break your childhood dreams and movies here, but Finding Nemo is not something personally, not judging anyone, that I'm not going to let my kids watch, because there's examples of fish disrespecting their fish fathers. And I don't want them to take that as, oh, this is an acceptable practice. Yes, at the end, he kind of comes around and the relationship's restored. You can have a good story, but if the first 3/4 of the story is the bad part of the story, where it's just rebellion, look, what we see when you watch a movie, you're seeing it, you're hearing it. If you're in a theater, you feel the sound waves hitting you, and it really, is engraving into your child's mind. So even if it has a happy ending, the ends don't justify the means. We want to give them pure, wholesome entertainment. Anything you want to say on that?
Well, just exactly what you said for some of the Disney films. That will also carry over to in a second when we talk about Christian films, because there's going to be a ton of films made for the Christian community where 3/4 of it is a pretty terrible story, and then there's redemption in the last quarter, and we don't want our kids to watch the first 3/4.
This is how, people who work at banks, the way they recognize counterfeit money is they only see the good. And if we can fill our children with just good examples, then when my daughter grows up and a man talks to her in an inappropriate way in God's kingdom, but very appropriate in Hollywood, because she hasn't watched those movies, it's going to just jump out at her, and she's going to say, that's wrong, and she's going to come to Daddy, and Daddy's going to find a good husband for her. But this is where feminism, evolutionism, promiscuity, all of these things are ingrained into the DNA of the majority of films out there. So we would encourage you to be really, really careful. And look, if you're going to err on a safe side. Once again, risking my child's purity, being entertained. Well, obviously, our children's eternal souls, their integrity, their Christian worldview is what matters. And so, we need to refilter it and really ask, okay, what is the message? If you look at every movie with the assumption that, okay, there is a message, this is a sermon, this is a teaching, this is a doctrine of some kind. If you see it that way, there's no such thing as just harmless entertainment. It has an agenda either way. Okay, so these are the Dodd family rules. I'm not saying these have to be your rules, just giving you an example that you can tweak to fit your family. If a movie has nudity, it's out. No exception at all. And when I say nudity, that can involve girls wearing 1-piece or 2-piece swimsuits, or even boys just running around with their shirts off. For our family, you don't have to have all your clothes off to be naked. You can still have some covering, but just be very immodest. So we just don't want that in our house. So if hey, this looks like a great movie, oh, wait a minute. And we go onto websites that tell different ratings, have parent ratings, and it says there's some nudity or girls in swimsuits. If it's a beach movie, something like that, nope, it's out. Kissing. Now, this is where we make some exception with kissing. For instance, we watched Ben-Hur, and we really liked the movie Ben-Hur. And unfortunately, there's a few kissing scenes, and what we do is we teach our children, say, okay, is this right? And they say no. Is it right for this character to be kissing this character? Are they married yet? Our children are convinced, I believe rightly so, that you don't kiss until you get married.
Can I go off on that?
Oh, please.
Well, so I can't stand it. I know that. I mean, we have a couple movies where there's
that's a few of our movies.
I know where there's the couple who's kissing and they're not married in real life. And
or
I
even
know,
the characters.
Well, so one of the things that people will say is, oh, they're married. They might not be married in real life, but their characters are married in this movie. And that just irks me to no end, because you're basically saying, okay, these characters are working and they're getting paid to kiss each other. So that would be like me as a side job having some kissing booth in town getting paid to kiss other men, but it's my job. Hey,
we'd make a lot of money. The Kendrick brothers, that's only a few, just a handful of movies, and that's something I want to applaud the Kendrick brothers for, because if you watch the behind the scenes on their film, anytime there's any physical contact, it's the actor and their spouse, and the way they do that with the camera is really cool.
They try to be really purposeful about keeping the marriage covenant pure and behind the scenes.
If it has any rebellion, overly rebellion, where like children are telling their parents all the, just like, obviously cursing would be an out, but even children just being disrespectful to adults, we toss it out. A bunch of worldly youth hanging out, being teenagers, just hanging out, doing what teenagers do, it's out. Bad words, swear words, out. Now, there is some slight exception on that, and that is with bad words that are found in the Bible in certain contexts. For instance, where's Cromwell? We got Cromwell? Okay. This is one of, Mrs. Dodd has a hard time with this movie.
I don't.
But we are big Oliver Cromwell fans, and it's rated G. It's rated G, and he uses the words, the D word and the H word that are found in the Bible in religious anger.
I just don't
you can
know.
Evaluate it for yourselves.
I only made it about 10 minutes.
Yeah, so that is an exception that I've chosen as a father to make. But here's an exception that we didn't make. So this is the movie The Darkest Hour. This was gifted by us. It was a very generous gift, and it was appropriate in the sense that we are huge history fans, and Winston Churchill is one of the greatest heroes of the 20th century in our minds. And this movie, it was a great movie. Amy and I previewed it first, which is a very important principle. Always preview movies, even if it's rated G.
Yeah,
preview it.
We preview everything.
It's a good date night.
Actually, I think I do most of it alone.
Yeah, most of it she does alone, okay. But there was one bad word in this. One bad word that's not found in the Bible, and also one kind of scene that was kind of,
scene?
And guess what? I loved every other part of that movie besides that 30 seconds, but here's the deal. When you draw lines, if you go over those, well, now you've set a pattern. So my advice to you is draw lines in the sand and then do not cross them, because I know families who've had the same conviction we've had. They've made exception, and after a while, you push the snowball downhill. So let's wrap this up with a beautiful bow. I want to give you 4 or 5 categories of movies, and then these guys are going to tell you some of their favorite movies. I said, get your favorite movies. It stressed them out, so I said, okay, 3 movies you'd recommend. So here are some categories of movies that I would recommend. History movies are great. The older, the better. So this is Lawrence of Arabia. Great film. Preview it first, please. But history's great. History's powerful. We talk about that in other films. Christian movies such as Risen. Great film. Would recommend it. That's kind of history. Preview it. Don't take the Dodd's word for it. Preview it. But here's actually more what I meant by Christian movie. Courageous. Kendrick Brothers. Great movie. Very meaningful to our children. But you need to preview Christian movies, because, for instance, here's a Christian movie made by PureFlix, which makes some really good movies, along with, what's the other one I like? Affirm Films I like even more than PureFlix. This is a movie called Old Fashioned. I think it's got a great message, but it's not, I would not recommend this at all for children.
I previewed that, and that was not a good movie.
Yeah, it was not a good movie, but the message that they were trying to get across was good, because he wouldn't go in the same room with her and things like that. So we have history movies, we have Christian movies, Bible movies. This would be the Gospel of John right here. If you don't have this movie, this one you don't have to preview. Get it, watch it. It's the book of John, verse by verse. This is personally...
In what, though? Some people,
In what translation?
Yeah, I think it's like the Message.
It's the Good News Bible. You're going to argue with that? Come on, it's the Good News Bible. Watch it. Get over your translations.
People might not want that.
Well, okay. Preview it. But this is my favorite movie. If I had to pick a favorite movie, it'd be this one.
Really good.
And my other favorite one that I really like is The Apostle Paul that came out, I believe, in 2018.
We don't have that one around.
Really like one. No, we have it lent out. And then lastly, documentaries. Documentaries, The Star of Bethlehem, Agenda 2, Back to Eden, Expelled, Indoctrination. These are great teaching tools for our children. Preview them. Some of them, they need to be at a certain age. But definitely ones I would recommend. And our children have some as well. Okay. All right, Jared, why don't you share with us your 3 movies? Hold them up and go through them and tell us what they are.
I have here Lawrence of Arabia, which is about a World War I hero. Fireproof, which is a Kindick Brothers. And Agenda, which is the Agenda 2 is the follow-up.
Yes, this is the prequel. Would you, this is like really good, right?
Yes, sir.
Like this is a must-have. If I could only recommend one documentary, it'd be very difficult. I love documentaries. There's a dozen of them that I would say you have to watch. This is the first and foremost. You have to get this, and you have to watch it. Thank you, Jared. Very, very good. Really, really great films. Mr. Jedediah, what you got for us, buddy?
Well, first, I have Risen. It is a great Bible movie. It is about
Jesus.
Jesus.
It's about the centurion, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can
that's
skip
good.
that part if you want to.
That's a good one. Oh no, that was cute. Okay, what else you got, bud?
And then I have Courageous, a Kindle
Kendrick.
Kindred brother. Was that Kindred?
Yeah, it's a tough one to say. Yeah, but great film, right?
Yes, sir.
And what you got here?
And then I have Battle of the Bulge, a great history film that is about history. It is a great battle.
Guys, if this kind of advertising doesn't work, I don't know what will.
One bad
Watch
word.
them. Watch them. Oh, there's a bad word?
Yeah.
Preview it. Okay, Miss Ivy. Thank you, Jedediah. Great job. Miss Ivy, what you got?
I have the
Nativity?
story, which is about Mary giving birth to Jesus. I have War Room, which is a
Kendrick
brother movie.
Kendrick brother. They need a shorter name. One of my, if I had to have a favorite Kendrick brother movie, it'd be hard. This might be a great movie.
And I have Flywheel, another Kendrick brother.
The one that started it all, right?
Mhm.
The very first one.
it's
Yeah.
It was the first one that they made.
Excellent, Ivy. Very, very good movies. Rock on.
This one, they might say a couple words that we don't do in our home. I think they say stupid in this one,
Yeah.
which stupid's a bad word in the
Bad
documentary.
word, yeah.
But they don't do that in any of the other films.
That's true. They grew out of that. Okay, Mr. Isaiah, what you got, bud?
I have the Gospel of John. I have The Great Escape. It's a history film. It's really cool. It's all about a great escape from World War II. And I have Cromwell. As my dad just said, we really like Oliver Cromwell, and yeah.
Oliver Cromwell, yeah. And with a history, usually the further you go back, the better it is. Usually when a movie's from the 1950s or 60s, like there was a movie we just watched called Sergeant York that was about Alvin York, a World War I hero from the 40s maybe? Yeah, actually it was 1944 or 45, and it was great. It was a great film, but preview it first. All right, friends, so wrapping up here. Any last words, Mrs. Dodd?
I don't think so.
All right, guys, so hey, hope you enjoyed this film. The point of this all is what we watch matters. Listen, your children are going to be the children next year, and what's going to change them from this year to next year is what they put in, what books they're reading, what movies are they watching. So it's very important. What you put your children in front of matters. It is either advertising the kingdom of God or the kingdom of Satan. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next time.